Let the Right One In, 2008 Swedish film. It's a kind of a touching and endearing story about a young boy named Oskar, who is kind of an outsider and a loner at school and is regularly bullied by some of his classmates until he meets a young girl named Ely living in the next apartment. And the friendship between them is what helps him break the mold and turn his own life around. With a slight twist, and the twist is that the girl is actually a vampire. Like a regular classic vampire, only in a body of a 12-year-old. She can't go out during the day, she doesn't get cold, she's super strong, doesn't age, and most importantly, murders people and sucks their blood. So it's kind of impossible to say anything else about the story itself without spoiling too much. But because of combining those two familiar elements, childhood friendship and vampires, it is one of the most original movies in recent memory, particularly because of the way that those two aspects are intertwined. The friendship aspect is melancholic and slow-moving, while the vampiric parts are almost comedic in the absurd and sudden way that they fit into this otherwise realistic world of the film. Because it's not a fantasy film overall, it's not a horror, it's a drama that takes place in an almost real world, Sweden, but just happens to have a vampire in it. And I felt that it also uses that vampire aspect as a sort of allegory of immigrants and tolerance. It paints the character of Ely as different and in some ways incomprehensible, but also likable and relatable when Oskar gets to know her. She's not evil in what she does, and even though she murders people in violent ways, we feel for her more than for those victims. Because it's all framed as something that she has to do to live, something she's forced to do because of her circumstances, and not something she enjoys doing. So I really like the tone of the film, with the way that it's mostly serious and slow-burning and cold, with occasional outbursts of absurdist comedy. I think that the way it's shot really complements the story. The camera tends to be immobile, linger on the outsides of the scenes, watching the characters quite often like a random onlooker. The cinematographer for this film is actually Hoyt van Hoytema, who went on to make Dunkirk, among other films, later on. And you can see his expertise in the camera work here as well. The atmosphere is further enhanced by the choice of locations and music. The sense of cold, the ever-present snow, and long nights of the far north during wintertime built this feeling of loneliness and isolation in which the characters find each other. I did think that the film dragged a little bit in some sections, and if you're not one to be satisfied by just great cinematography and sound design, then some parts, yes, they may be too slow and tedious. Although it was certainly a deliberate choice to have them this way, to have this kind of pacing. And the ending that comes at the end certainly pays all of it off. I really loved the way that the film ends. So I think that Let the Right One In is a solid film. It looks and feels great. It follows a singular vision and tone really, really well. But most of all, it really is original.